John Hickok here. You know, the Glock 19 has been around my entire life. It was introduced around it was the same year I was born, 1988. And there's been a lot of different generations of it. Technically, there's some, apparently there are some Gen 1 Glock 19s, some people say. I've never seen one. If they are out there, they're super rare. So basically there are 4 generations of the Glock 19, which is the 2nd gen, the 3rd, the 4th, and the 5th. And some of you may wonder, did they fix it? You know, did they fix it on the 3rd or the 4th or the 5th? Or did it need fixing at all? Well, that's what we're going to talk about in this video. Let's take a couple shots with the original Gen 2 Glock 19. All right. 2 for 1 on that. All right, let's shoot one more magazine. It's too much fun. All right. Okay, so we have all of the Glock 19 generations out here. Again, excluding the one which I think is irrelevant because I'm not even sure. I cannot confirm that there is a Gen 1 19, but if there is, basically no one had one essentially. So these are the Glock 19 generation. Before we get into it though, of course, we always appreciate Bud's Gun Shop and Range. We thank them so much for their support. Check them out whenever possible. Also, Silencer Central. You've seen their banish line, their incredible banish line in a lot of our videos, so big thanks to them. Also, SDI, the Sonoran Desert Institute at sdi.edu. They offer a lot of coursework in gunsmithing, even drone technology, so please check them out when you get a chance. Okay, so what did they change or fix? You know, that's very subjective, of course. Some people are going to have a very different idea. Hang on, I'm going to take my earplugs out. One of the other videos, people thought I did not have ear protection, but I've been using the earplugs lately for some reason over the earmuffs. I don't know why. So here we got the Gen 2, the Gen 3, the Gen 4, and the Gen 5. So the 19 was originally introduced in about 1988. And then around 98, we've got the Gen 3. And then like in the 2010s, early 2010s, 2010s, something around there, the Gen 4. And then, you know, a few years ago, we had the Gen 5 come out. So first looking at the Gen 2 to the Gen 3. So you notice one of the first things I always notice with these is the finish. Now you had like kind of a Parkerized finish on the Gen 2, a very, very light, almost non-existent finish. So it scratches really easily. You know, this one's in pretty good shape, but they do show a lot of wear really quickly and really easily. I've always kind of liked how they wear because they start to, I don't know, I think they look like, if you see a really worn Gen 2, they look kind of cool. I actually kind of like that. Then you go, so to the Gen 3, you have the finger grooves. That's another one of the big things that you'll notice. No finger grooves on the 2, finger grooves on the 3. And this one is of course, it has Austrian proof marks, so it's a little bit different. Like this metal sight was not on a lot of them. When you go up to the Gen 4, you have, they sort of like tried to go back to the Gen 2 finish a little bit. They tried to find somewhere in between, because people were complaining, and myself and I know Dad included, that the finish is too slick. You know, it looks nice, it looks great, but it's a little too slick when you try to grab the serrations back here. It's a little slick, and you can't get as much of a bite. So they went to kind of a thinner finish. It's a little bit more gray instead of black, like the Gen 2. But there's a lot more differences, I think, between the 3 and the 4 than there are between the 2 and the 3. You still have the finger grooves, but you have these replaceable back straps here, which was there, you know, kind of a way to try to address some of the complaints people have had over the years over the grip. They didn't really do what I would have wanted them to do, because I always liked the 1911 style grip where you have just kind of a straight back instead of this hump right here. And it's really not one that kind of eliminates the hump, but you can, you can make it a little more modular for your hand, which is good. And then one of the big things that they did for this model is the double captured mainspring, recoil spring, which is supposed to help some reduce the recoil some to some degree, which I don't think you're going to notice a lot on the 9, but I definitely shot a Gen 3 and a Gen 4 like 40 cal or like the heavier rounds, and you can kind of notice some difference. But I feel like with the 9, not a big difference, but it doesn't seem to hurt. I don't know if you remember, but there were some reliability issues initially with the release of the Gen 4 because of that spring, and they had to I think they had to issue like a different strength, for some of them. I remember there was some issue with that. They needed some breaking in or something like that. Okay, and then moving up to the Gen 5, they kind of went back to something closer to the Gen 3 finish, where it's more of that heavier black finish, but it does not seem to have quite the same issue of being too slick on the rear serrations. So they found a nice balance with that. You have the kind of the rounded front. This is a really early Gen 5, so the Gen 5s you're going to find now typically will have the front serrations, which I really like, and then you also have the removable plate to put on red dots, which I think they started offering during the Gen 4 version. And you can see here they deleted the finger grooves, which you have on the 2 and the 3, or on the 3 and the 4, and not on the 2. You can see there. And they also went back to this little cutout, so I should have mentioned that. So notice here it goes all the way to the bottom, but on the Gen 2 you have this little cutout right there. And the idea for that is just the mag end. You got something to pull it out. And on the Gen 5 magazines, they made the base plate a little bit longer, so you still have the double captured mainspring on both of these. Now, those are kind of the major differences. There's some other details or whatever I'm sure that I missed, but those are the big things that you're going to notice, like handling them and shooting them. Did they fix it? It depends on what you want. If you need, I would say probably one of the biggest reasons you would need one of the more modern Glock 19s would be if you're going to put a red dot on it, because you do not have that option without going to a gunsmith on the 2 and the 3 and the early 4s. But honestly, the 2 will do just about, other than that, everything that the 5 will do. You got some more options with the back straps on the 4 and the 5, but it's still a Glock 19. It still shoots great. Another thing too, the triggers. The trigger's pretty bad on the Gen 2, and they definitely improved over the years on that. So I would say if you get a modern, if you get a Gen 5, it's still going to be a you're not gonna, like, you could get a Gen 2 and you're not going to miss necessarily a lot of the things that the Gen 5 can offer. Really the biggest thing is if you want to put a red dot on it. I think that is really probably the biggest thing that you would miss versus all of these guns. They all feel great, they all shoot great if you like Glocks. All right, let's finish out on shooting the Gen 5 here. And also want to remind you guys, we appreciate the support from Alabama Holster. They make great little Kydex holsters for Glock 19s out. Even. All right, let's see, put my earplugs back in. One thing too about this that has always kind of bothered me is people act like the changes are subtle. Like I'm saying, the difference between the 2 and the 5 is not even that big necessarily. Like I said, the most extreme thing is just having the plate that you can easily remove to put a red dot on there. A lot of the other stuff is pretty trivial, but then people, because of that, sometimes will complain that it's like some sort of money grab or something like that, or they're just releasing the same gun. Here's the thing is, like, technology slows down. Like with the iPhone, people say the same thing. I don't have iPhone, I use Android, but as technology increases, the rate that it makes leaps slows down, right? Like the Glock was a huge leap in technology, but then beyond that, it's a little bit of a slower process. So, you know, what can they really do that is going to change what this gun is in a huge way? You know, until it shoots some sort of it's like a photon blaster or something. So, all right. We got a couple of mags. All right, Gen 5, Glock 19. Let's see, we got a couple of 2 liters left, I think. See if I can get that green one around the, be like a little hostage target around this circle plate here. I killed the hostage. Nah, I think he'll survive. All right, one more mag. So, as far as general shootability, you know, not a lot has changed, but there's a few things that you might consider to be improvements. So, was it fixed? Probably not. But, you know, if some of the things that the Gen 5 does, or in the 4 or the 3, are more important to you than the 2, then maybe in your mind it has been fixed. But they're all pretty similar. So I hope you got a little something out of that, and thank you guys for checking out the video.
Oh yeah, that's better. This is a great gun for defense. Oh hey, didn't see you guys there. While I've got you here, I want to remind you of our friends over at Talon Grips and Ballistol. Talon Grips makes grips, can you believe it, for all different types of firearms. You can get rough texture or more of a rubberized texture. It just sticks right on there. You know, really affordable, really cool option to improve the grip for your handguns or rifles. So please check them out at talongungrips.com. You'll be glad you did. And also Ballistol. Dad has been using Ballistol for many years. It's a cleaner and a lubricant, and it's non-toxic. It works really great, and we're happy to have them on board since it's been a part of our shooting endeavor for a very long time. So go to ballistol.com, talongungrips.com. And also, while you're out there, I'm juggling all these things here. Also, while you're on the internet, please do check out our other social media like Hickok45 on Facebook. There's also Hickok45 on Twitter, The Real Hickok45 on Instagram. There's a John_Hickok45 on Instagram where I do some things. There's Hickok45.com. You can find us also on Gunstreamer. So check out all that stuff and then watch more videos.